Ethical criticism is a branch of literary theory that focuses on evaluating literature and other forms of cultural production based on moral principles and values. This approach examines how literature reflects, reinforces, or challenges ethical norms, beliefs, and ideologies prevalent in society. Ethical criticism seeks to explore the ethical dimensions of literary works, including the ethical dilemmas presented, the moral character of the characters, and the author's own ethical stance. Key aspects of ethical criticism include moral evaluation. Ethical criticism involves assessing the actions and motivations of characters within a literary work from a moral perspective. It considers whether characters' behaviors align with ethical principles and standards, and it explores the consequences of their actions. Ethical themes and dilemmas. Ethical criticism examines the ethical themes and dilemmas presented in literature, such as justice, truth, integrity, loyalty, and the nature of good and evil. It analyzes how these themes are portrayed, negotiated, and resolved within the text. Authorial intent and ethical stance. Ethical criticism often considers the author's intentions and ethical stance as reflected in their work. It investigates how authors use literature to convey their own ethical beliefs, critique societal norms, or advocate for particular moral positions. Reader response and ethical engagement. Ethical criticism also considers how readers engage with ethical issues presented in literature and the impact of these engagements on their moral reasoning and behavior. It explores the ethical implications of readers' interpretations and responses to literary texts. Cultural context. Ethical criticism situates literary works within their cultural and historical contexts to understand how prevailing ethical norms and values influence both the creation and reception of literature. It examines how literature reflects and responds to ethical concerns and debates within society. Ethical implications of literary techniques. Ethical criticism may also analyze the ethical implications of literary techniques and stylistic choices, such as narrative perspective, characterization, and plot structure. It considers how these aesthetic elements shape the ethical dimensions of the text. Ethical criticism is interdisciplinary in nature, drawing insights from philosophy, psychology, sociology, and cultural studies. It offers a framework for examining the complex interplay between literature, morality, and human experience, enriching our understanding of both literary texts and ethical inquiry. Ethical criticism offers several unique features that distinguish it from other approaches to literary analysis. Here are some of these features along with examples to illustrate them. Focus on moral evaluation. Ethical criticism places a significant emphasis on evaluating the moral dimensions of literary works, including the actions and motivations of characters. For example, in Fyodor Dostoevsky's novel, Crime and Punishment, the protagonist, Raskolnikov, grapples with ethical dilemmas surrounding morality, guilt, and redemption as he contemplates and commits a murder. Exploration of ethical themes and dilemmas. Ethical criticism delves into the ethical themes and dilemmas presented in literature. In William Shakespeare's tragedy, Hamlet, the play explores complex ethical questions related to revenge, justice, and the moral responsibilities of individuals within society. Consideration of authorial intent and ethical stance. Ethical criticism examines the author's intentions and ethical stance as reflected in their work. For instance, in George Orwell's novel, 1984, the author's critique of totalitarianism and advocacy for individual freedom and truth reflects Orwell's own ethical concerns about the abuse of power and erosion of human rights. Engagement with reader response and ethical implications. Ethical criticism considers how readers engage with ethical issues presented in literature and the ethical implications of their interpretations. In J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series, readers may grapple with ethical questions related to friendship, loyalty, courage, and the ethical responsibilities of those in positions of authority. Analysis of cultural context and ethical concerns. Ethical criticism situates literary works within their cultural and historical contexts to understand how prevailing ethical norms influence both the creation and reception of literature. For example, in Chinua Achebe's novel, Things Fall Apart, the portrayal of colonialism and its impact on traditional Igbo society raises ethical questions about cultural imperialism, power dynamics, and the clash of values. Exploration of ethical implications of literary techniques. Ethical criticism analyzes the ethical implications of literary techniques and stylistic choices. In Gabriel Garcia Marquez's 100 Years of Solitude, the author's use of magical realism serves as a vehicle for exploring existential and ethical themes such as fate, memory, and the cyclical nature of history. These unique features demonstrate how ethical criticism offers a multifaceted approach to understanding literature, enriching our appreciation of the complex interplay between literary artistry and ethical inquiry. Let's explore the unique features of ethical criticism using George Orwell's classic dystopian novel, 1984. Focus on moral evaluation. In 1984, ethical criticism involves a deep analysis of the protagonist Winston Smith's moral journey. Winston's rebellion against the oppressive regime of Big Brother raises questions about the morality of resistance, the nature of truth, and the consequences of individual actions in the face of totalitarianism. Exploration of ethical themes and dilemmas. The novel presents a multitude of ethical dilemmas, including the suppression of freedom, the manipulation of truth, and the ethical implications of surveillance and control. For example, Winston's affair with Julia challenges the party's strict regulations on personal relationships, forcing him to confront the ethical implications of his desire for intimacy and autonomy within a repressive society. Consideration of authorial intent and ethical stance. Orwell's own ethical concerns are evident throughout, 1984. The novel serves as a warning against the dangers of authoritarianism and the erosion of individual freedom. Orwell's ethical stance is reflected in his critique of political oppression, propaganda, and the abuse of power by totalitarian regimes. Engagement with reader response and ethical implications. Readers of 1984 are confronted with ethical questions about the nature of truth, the limits of surveillance, and the moral imperative to resist injustice. The novel encourages readers to reflect on their own ethical values and societal responsibilities in the face of tyranny. Analysis of cultural context and ethical concerns. 1984 is deeply rooted in its cultural and historical context, drawing parallels to real-world totalitarian regimes and ideological conflicts of Orwell's time. Ethical criticism of the novel considers how Orwell's portrayal of a dystopian future reflects and critiques ethical concerns about authoritarianism, censorship, and the abuse of state power. Exploration of ethical implications of literary techniques. Orwell's use of language and narrative techniques in 1984 serves ethical purposes. The novel's stark prose and chilling depiction of surveillance and thought control not only serve as literary devices but also evoke ethical questions about the manipulation of language and the distortion of truth by oppressive regimes. In summary, 1984 exemplifies how ethical criticism offers a rich framework for analyzing literature, allowing readers to engage with complex ethical themes, moral dilemmas, and the broader societal implications of literary texts. Let's provide a critical analysis of 1984 through the lens of ethical criticism. Moral evaluation. 1984 offers a stark portrayal of a dystopian society where moral values are systematically distorted and suppressed by the authoritarian regime of Big Brother. Winston Smith's moral journey serves as a focal point for moral evaluation, as he grapples with ethical dilemmas surrounding truth, freedom, and individual autonomy. However, some critics argue that Winston's own moral ambiguity and eventual betrayal of Julia raise questions about the complexity of morality in a totalitarian context. Exploration of ethical themes and dilemmas. The novel delves into numerous ethical themes and dilemmas, including the ethics of surveillance and control, the nature of truth and reality, and the moral imperative of resistance against oppression. Critics have praised Orwell's exploration of these themes, but some argue that the novel's portrayal of moral absolutism, particularly in its depiction of Winston's rebellion, may oversimplify the complexities of ethical decision-making in oppressive societies. Consideration of authorial intent and ethical stance. George Orwell's ethical stance against totalitarianism and his commitment to defending individual freedom and truth are evident throughout 1984. The novel serves as a powerful critique of political oppression and the dangers of unchecked state power. Critics often commend Orwell's ethical clarity and moral vision, although some may question the effectiveness of his dystopian narrative as a tool for inspiring ethical action or societal change. Engagement with reader response and ethical implications. 1984 prompts readers to engage with ethical questions about the nature of truth, the ethics of resistance, and the moral responsibilities of individuals in the face of tyranny. However, some critics argue that the novel's bleak portrayal of a totalitarian future may lead to feelings of hopelessness or resignation rather than inspiring active ethical engagement or resistance among readers. Analysis of cultural context and ethical concerns. Orwell's critique of totalitarianism in 1984 is deeply rooted in its cultural and historical context, drawing parallels to real-world authoritarian regimes and ideological conflicts of the 20th century. However, critics may question the extent to which the novel's ethical concerns resonate with contemporary readers and whether its dystopian narrative remains relevant in an era of technological surveillance and digital control. Exploration of ethical implications of literary techniques. Orwell employs various literary techniques in 1984 to evoke ethical questions about language, truth, and power. The novel's use of newspeak, doublethink, and the manipulation of historical records serves as a chilling portrayal of the distortion of truth by totalitarian regimes. Critics often praise Orwell's stylistic precision and narrative control, although some may argue that his didactic approach risks overshadowing the complexity of ethical dilemmas presented in the novel. Overall, while 1984 remains a seminal work of dystopian literature with enduring ethical relevance, its portrayal of moral and ethical issues continues to provoke debate and critical scrutiny. Ethical criticism offers a valuable framework for analyzing the novel's ethical dimensions and exploring its implications for understanding the complexities of morality, power, and resistance in oppressive societies. Let's explore the significance, relevance, legacy, contribution, and impact of George Orwell's 1984 inches. Significance. 1984 is significant for its profound exploration of totalitarianism, surveillance, propaganda, and the erosion of individual freedom. It serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked state power and the manipulation of truth in oppressive societies. Orwell's vivid portrayal of a dystopian future continues to resonate with readers worldwide, inspiring critical reflection on the ethical and political challenges of the modern era. Relevance. Despite being published in 1949, 1984 remains highly relevant today due to its themes of authoritarianism, censorship, and surveillance. The novel depiction of mass surveillance, government control, and the manipulation of information parallels contemporary concerns about digital privacy, misinformation, and the concentration of power in the hands of a few. In an age of increasing technological surveillance and political polarization, 1984 serves as a timely warning against the erosion of civil liberties and the rise of authoritarian tendencies. Legacy. The legacy of 1984 extends far beyond its initial publication. The novel has become a cultural touchstone, influencing literature, film, television, and political discourse. Phrases such as Big Brother, thoughtcrime, and newspeak have entered the lexicon as shorthand for oppressive surveillance and government overreach. 1984 continues to inspire adaptations, parodies, and references in popular culture, reinforcing its enduring impact on the collective imagination. Contribution. Orwell's 1984 has made significant contributions to literature, ethics, and political thought. Through its uncompromising critique of totalitarianism and its defense of individual autonomy and truth, the novel has sparked important conversations about power, morality, and the responsibilities of citizens in democratic societies. Orwell's commitment to truth-telling and intellectual integrity remains a guiding principle for writers, journalists, and activists striving to hold power to account and defend democratic values. Impact. The impact of 1984 extends beyond the realm of literature to shape public discourse and inform political debates. The novel has inspired movements for freedom of expression, human rights, and democratic reform around the world. Its message resonates with individuals and communities striving to resist authoritarianism, defend civil liberties, and uphold the principles of democracy and social justice. 1984 continues to serve as a rallying cry for those seeking to challenge oppression and promote a more just and equitable society. In summary, George Orwell's 1984 holds enduring significance and relevance as a powerful critique of totalitarianism and a defense of individual freedom and truth. Its legacy, contributions, and impact continue to shape our understanding of ethics, politics, and the human condition, reminding us of the importance of vigilance, critical thinking, and moral courage in the face of tyranny. The requirement for ethical criticism lies in its capacity to offer nuanced insights into the moral dimensions of literary works, fostering a deeper understanding of human values, ethical dilemmas, and societal norms. Here are some key requirements for ethical criticism. Ethical sensitivity. Ethical criticism requires sensitivity to moral nuances and complexities within literary texts. Critics must be attuned to the ethical dilemmas faced by characters, the moral implications of their actions, and the ethical questions raised by the narrative. Critical analysis. Ethical criticism necessitates rigorous analysis of the ethical themes, conflicts, and implications present in literature. Critics should examine how authors engage with ethical concerns, the ideological underpinnings of the text, and the ethical dimensions of literary techniques and stylistic choices. Contextual understanding. Ethical criticism demands an understanding of the cultural, historical, and social contexts in which literary works are produced and received. Critics must consider how prevailing ethical norms, values, and ideologies influence both the creation and interpretation of literature. Interdisciplinary perspective. Ethical criticism benefits from an interdisciplinary approach that draws insights from philosophy, psychology, sociology, and cultural studies. Critics may integrate theoretical frameworks and methodologies from diverse disciplines to enrich their analysis of ethical themes and issues in literature. Engagement with reader response. Ethical criticism encourages engagement with reader responses and interpretations of literary texts. Critics should consider how readers engage with ethical dilemmas presented in literature, the moral implications of their interpretations, and the ethical dimensions of their own critical perspectives. Ethical reflection and dialogue. Ethical criticism promotes reflection and dialogue about moral values, ethical principles, and societal norms. Critics should foster open and respectful discourse about the ethical implications of literature, inviting diverse perspectives and interpretations to enrich the ethical conversation. Ethical responsibility. Ethical criticism requires a commitment to ethical responsibility in the analysis and interpretation of literary works. Critics should strive to uphold ethical standards of integrity, honesty, and fairness in their engagement with texts and their interactions with authors, readers, and fellow critics. By meeting these requirements, ethical criticism can contribute to a deeper appreciation of literature's ethical dimensions, fostering ethical awareness, critical thinking, and moral engagement among readers, scholars, and the broader community. The future of ethical criticism holds both challenges and opportunities as literature continues to evolve alongside societal norms, values, and technological advancements. Here are some considerations for the future of ethical criticism. Technological ethics. With the rapid advancement of technology, including artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and biotechnology, ethical criticism may need to adapt to address new ethical dilemmas and implications presented in literature. Critics may explore how emerging technologies shape ethical concerns such as privacy, identity, agency, and the boundaries between human and machine. Global ethics. In an increasingly interconnected world, ethical criticism may expand its scope to consider diverse cultural perspectives and global ethical concerns reflected in literature. Critics may explore how literature from different cultures and regions grapples with universal ethical themes, cultural values, and ethical challenges arising from globalization, migration, and cultural exchange. Environmental ethics. The urgency of climate change and environmental degradation may prompt ethical criticism to engage more deeply with literature that addresses ecological ethics, sustainability, and humanity's relationship with the natural world. Critics may examine how literature reflects ethical responses to environmental crises and advocates for environmental stewardship and social justice. Social justice and equity. Ethical criticism may play a role in promoting social justice and equity by examining literature that addresses issues of race, gender, sexuality, class, and intersectionality. Critics may explore how literature confronts systemic injustices, amplifies marginalized voices, and advocates for ethical change within society. Ethics of representation. Criticism may increasingly focus on the ethics of representation in literature, considering how authors portray diverse identities and experiences with authenticity, sensitivity, and respect. Critics may examine the ethical implications of literary depictions of race, gender, disability, and other social categories, interrogating power dynamics and challenging stereotypes and harmful tropes. Digital ethics and literature. As literature continues to intersect with digital media, ethical criticism may address the ethical implications of digital storytelling, online communities, and interactive narratives. Critics may explore issues such as digital privacy, data ethics, algorithmic bias, and the ethics of online engagement, considering how literature reflects and responds to the digital age. Interdisciplinary collaboration. Ethical criticism may benefit from interdisciplinary collaboration with fields such as philosophy, ethics, sociology, psychology, and environmental studies. Critics might draw on insights from diverse disciplines to deepen their understanding of ethical themes, enhance their analytical frameworks, and foster interdisciplinary dialogue about literature and ethics. Overall, the future of ethical criticism holds promise for enriching our understanding of literature's ethical dimensions and its potential to inspire ethical reflection, empathy, and social change in a rapidly changing world. By embracing emerging ethical challenges and engaging with diverse voices and perspectives, ethical criticism can continue to evolve as a vital tool for ethical inquiry and literary analysis. Let's apply the considerations for the future of ethical criticism to a more popular novel, The Hunger Games, by Suzanne Collins. Technological ethics. In The Hunger Games, ethical criticism may explore the technological ethics surrounding the Capitol's use of advanced technology to control and manipulate the citizens of Panem. Critics may examine the ethical implications of surveillance, genetic engineering, and reality television as tools of oppression and resistance within the narrative. Global ethics. The global ethics present in The Hunger Games could involve analyzing how the novel addresses issues such as inequality, exploitation, and imperialism. Critics may consider the ethical dimensions of the stark divide between the opulent capital and the impoverished districts, as well as the ethical responsibilities of privileged societies toward marginalized communities. Environmental ethics. Ethical criticism may engage with the environmental ethics portrayed in The Hunger Games, particularly in relation to the destruction of nature and the consequences of ecological imbalance. Critics may explore how the novel reflects ethical concerns about resource exploitation, environmental degradation, and humanity's impact on the natural world. Social justice and equity. The Hunger Games provides rich material for ethical criticism concerning social justice and equity. Critics may analyze how the novel addresses issues of classism, poverty, and systemic injustice, as well as the ethical imperative of solidarity, resistance, and collective action in the face of oppression. Ethics of representation. Ethical criticism of The Hunger Games may consider the ethics of representation in terms of how the novel portrays gender, violence, and trauma. Critics may examine the ethical implications of Katniss Everdeen's characterization as a strong female protagonist, as well as the ethical challenges of depicting violence and its impact on young adult readers. Digital ethics and literature. While The Hunger Games predates the digital age, ethical criticism could explore how the novel anticipates and critiques contemporary digital ethics, particularly in its portrayal of media manipulation, propaganda, and the commodification of human suffering. Critics may consider how the novel's themes resonate with contemporary concerns about digital privacy, social media, and online surveillance. Interdisciplinary collaboration. Ethical criticism of The Hunger Games could benefit from interdisciplinary collaboration with fields such as political science, sociology, media studies, and environmental studies. Critics may draw on insights from diverse disciplines to deepen their analysis of ethical themes and foster interdisciplinary dialogue about literature, ethics, and society. By applying the considerations for the future of ethical criticism to The Hunger Games, critics can explore the novel's ethical dimensions in relation to contemporary ethical challenges and global issues, enriching our understanding of its cultural significance and moral implications.